that a man? I hear you, Pastor Nate, but what is that about? So is it for somebody who grew up in a two-parent household? Yes, it is. Is it somebody who grew up with no father in the household? Yes, it is. Is it somebody who had a male mentor or uncle that raised him? Yes, it is. What about a coach, Pastor Nate? Yes, it is. Yes to all those questions. What we are doing, what we have been doing is coming together as men and saying, is there a clear-cut definition of what a man is? You may see a man as someone who can change a tire. You may see somebody as a man, somebody who can tie a tie. What's the true definition of a man? Good question. Glad you asked. Check out these episodes and we're going to talk about it. See you soon. Hey, what's going on? This is Pastor Nate. Episode number 4, Is That a Man? And all our guests have been special because we're going to be going through this time of quarantine. We've kind of limited our numbers a little bit. We got some space between us, but it's going to be a good show. I've been looking forward to doing this. My 2 guests on my left, your right, Jonathan Wilkins. And then on my right, your left, is somebody I've known forever. Grew up with, basically playing sports together, Coach Antonio King, the running backs coach at North Carolina Central. So guys, this is episode number 4 we're doing, and we've been having a whole lot of conversations and just bringing people from different backgrounds. And you two very successful men and what you do in your career, in the community, in life, and with your own families that I've seen and witnessed personally. And a lot of times people can think that there's something that happened in a 2-parent household that did not really happen. My dad didn't walk me in the back at night and say, hey son, get in the covers and tuck me in and say, hey champ. It just didn't happen. He worked a lot, good dad, came home. And so those are kind of things that we want to talk about tonight. And Coach, we want to start out with you. Running backs coach at North Carolina, the North Carolina Central University.
Yes.
You were at Hillside for a long time, at Neal.
Oh, watch yourself.
Yeah, I messed up, didn't I? At Neal, where I was telling you that 7th graders got armbands, throwing for 800 yards per game. And but then it was at ECU for a stint. Then you went to Hargrave, and now you're back in Durham, right across the street from where you grew up. How is it to be back home across the street from probably the streets you walked for many, many years, to be coaching at that place?
It's a dream come true. It's a place you set out when you first started this thing, is always wanting to get back to and give back to that place. And when the call came, I had to play it cool, but as soon as the call came and the question was asked, I knew what it was going to be. So I'm happy to be there.
Right. Now, coaching at Hillside, which was a school that you played at. You and I met way before then, but where you played basketball, played football, went on to play at Howard, was a quarterback. But one of the things about your coaching that I've seen it, I witnessed it firsthand, being in the locker room before you for 2 years, seeing what kind of young men you worked with. On Fridays, y'all did that big team dinner. It's supposed to be a team dinner. It was basically like a family reunion. I mean, they had a spread. And just even him asking people that he knew and had relationships with, hey, we're trying to feed these kids every Friday night. And, I need y'all to give $5. So-and-so can't afford it. So you kind of had a dual role at Hillside, won state championships there, then put I don't know how many people in college to play. How did you balance being coach and being a father figure to most of those kids?
Well, how crazy it came easy to me. My 2 coaches that was real prevalent in my life, middle school coach, Coach Eubanks, and high school coach, Coach Lilly, and followed by Coach Mebane, those guys did it for us. We was the same kids that I eventually had to coach. We didn't have fathers in the house or what have you, so they did a good job of stepping in to be everybody you needed. Right. So I still use that to the day. I try to be the coach and the person to them that I needed for me when I was growing up. So that's always been my thing.
Now, what did most of those kids need? Because when I coached, being in Chapel Hill, it was kind of you with them for those hour and a half or 2 hours, and you got to go to the house. because you knew they wouldn't be all right. Their parents were gonna pick them up, they're gonna drop them off. It was gonna be a teen mother, it was gonna be bag lunches after and stuff. So, but I'm sure being at Hillside, with so many of those young men that didn't have fathers, what was the other side of coaching that you couldn't just shut it down once you left the football field?
Your phone. They called you for any and everything. It was certain kids, they didn't even ask. They just knew that car was taking them home, or that car was picking them up on a Saturday, or that car was going to get them in the summer to get them to workouts and all of that good stuff. And it was embedded in your mind. You knew, I got to go pick up him, and him. Right. So you knew how to make your path. You knew what time to get home and all of that good stuff. So you had to be, I took on the role of being whatever they needed me to be at the time, whether it was father figure, brother, uncle, cousin, friend, or just a confidant. Right. You had to wear many hats.
Yeah, I even saw one situation, and I won't say any names, but it was a kid who, as we say in the country, I don't even know if it's a word, we took a liking to. And me and my family got really involved with him, and he told me to come pick him up one day for church. And I went to his apartment, and another player came out. And I said, well, you know what, why are you staying here? He said, oh, Coach King asked his mom, could I stay with him? Because Pastor Nate, I don't have anywhere to live. And they took him in and helped him get a car and stuff like that. And so I just thought that was huge, you helping this young man out and saying, I need somewhere for him to live. And he said that was his brother. They were calling each other's brothers. And I thought, because they basically looked like they were brothers, but I didn't know that this is a family that had kind of helped him. And they went on to play at Central and doing their thing. So I think that's a big testament to you. Now, John, your situation, where a lot of times people say, hey, my dad was in the home, but your uncle was a big father figure to you. And so how did that come about? Did he come home one day and say, hey, I'm gonna be like a dad to you? Is that a conversation because a lot of people are saying maybe my dad's not there, so what are some other individuals I can look at that can say they can impart that into me? So how did that relationship develop?
So he and I were always close when I was growing up. So I was with them a lot on the weekends, so I grew up with my grandparents and moved in with my mom when I was about 12 years old.
So you grew up with your grandparents?
Grew up with my grandparents.
Okay.
And so by 12, like I said, moved in with my mom, but every weekend I was at my uncle's house.
Okay.
So he's always been, he's a guy's guy. Mm-hmm. He's if you ever had the definition of a true masculine male figure in your life, he's that guy. Rough house with you, throw you around, never let you beat him in sports. Probably, he's 65, I probably still can't beat him today. But he just took it on as a natural, because that's naturally who he.
Now let me ask you this, when you say take on, what did he take on to make you see him like that? Like, what was that moment you said, oh man, this is different. He's more than an uncle. When you say take on, what was that moment?
I guess it had always kind of been there, because he disciplined me just like he disciplined his son. Mm-hmm. He would call me his son. When he addressed me like son, he called me today, he would call me son. Like, hey, for a little while I used to joke with him, and I used to call him Uncle Dad, because he was just that father figure in my life. I think there was one pivotal moment for me and for my cousin. Like, we were going out of town, and we stopped off to look at some rims at this old junkyard. Okay. And this junkyard had these little slats that go in between the fence. Mm-hmm. So when you drove past it, you just like a flip book that made a complete picture. Right. So we stopped and we got out and we told the guys we were going to go back. When we went out of town, we left to go out of town that Friday. We were in Atlanta. When I came back, we got a call from the police that we had been accused of stealing the rims because somebody stole them over the weekend. My uncle called me and asked me one question. He said, son, did y'all steal the rims? I said, no, sir, we had nothing to do with it. He said, that's all I needed to hear. And from that point on, he had our back. We went to bat for us. I never had anybody go to bat for me to that extent. Right. That off the one word that I said, he trusted and believed in me and everything I said. So from that point on, I never wanted to disappoint him or let him down. Right. So it was kind of like that father figure was instilled. Even if I didn't recognize it, at that moment I recognized it. He's like that.
So what's the definition of a father figure to you? What if you had that? What does that look like?
That's a tough one because it's a lot of variables to it, right? Because I think one, you got to be a disciplinarian. You got to be, in my mind, you got to play sports with your kids. You got to take them out back. You got to show them love, but then explain to them your life.
Okay, what's show love? That's a good one. That's what we've been talking about all the time. And I'm gonna skip and ask you, what's show love? Do you hug them? Do you?
So for me, I am that affectionate father.
Okay.
Like I'll tell my boys I love them in a heartbeat because I never really had that growing up. So I always wanted them to know there is nothing wrong in telling another man that you love him, because there's some genuine love that happens between men, and we're afraid to admit that sometimes, or we're embarrassed to say it. But I need them to know that I love them more than I love my own breath. That I'll give them my last, and oftentimes my oldest, who will be taller than me soon, takes my last piece of chicken. And so I get a little ticked off there too, right? But he knows that I'll give him my all. I try to instill in him everything that I didn't have. In my mind, Bill Cosby, Cliff Huxtable was the ultimate dad. I always thought, like, man, that's how I want to live. I wanted to be a Huxtable. But I was more like Will Smith from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Uncle Phil. And I just remember that growing up thinking, like, I want to be able, when I have kids, I want to be able to instill in them everything that I didn't get. And I think that's what kind of drives me, because you have two roads that you can go down, the road that you were dealt, or you can look at your scenario and your situation and say, you know what? I'm going to do everything that I know is the right path to go down, and not go down the path that I was taught. So I wanted to make sure I gave my boys everything.
What's your background like, Coach?
Meaning?
Having a male figure in your life.
Male figures, I was totally different than probably the norm. Male figures for me were guys that was older than me when I was younger, and then it was coaches and players, friends of that nature. But it was ironic that my best friends are the ones who we helped each other learn how to be men.
Yeah, y'all got a tight.
Yeah, we helped learn, so when he talked about disappointing his uncle, when I had to look at my friends and you done disappointed them, that was the hardest thing to do. So it was a trial and error thing with us. We learned things from here, learned things from there. We picked up something from here, picked up from there. So it was like a melting pot of things. It was trial and error. Show love.
What does that mean? What does show love mean? Because you know what, some guys you are really close to, it's kind of like we'll be in a barbershop. Hey, Runt was here today. Yeah. But you wouldn't know y'all were like. Yeah. So what does that look like for you?
It's different. When you show love, the older we got, the more comfortable we got with telling each other we love them, because we started losing people. So we got comfortable with saying, I love you, man, be good, just want you to know that. Right. But when we was young, it was just like, man, it was punch him in the shoulder and keep moving. But, the older you get, the more mature you get, and the more confident you get in yourself and the situation you're in, that's what showing love is to us, and you may not see us together all the time, but if the phone rings and somebody needs us, we're there for them. Right. So that's how we try to lead. We are an example group. We lead by example. Right. I know how Nate is. I know how Worthy is. I know how somebody else is. So you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Right. You know if he come knocking at the door and don't ring the doorbell, you in trouble. Right. Just sit there and take it, and at the end of it, I'm sorry, let's move on. But to me, that's showing love. Yeah. I mean, you have to fall in your way, and there's a little different now with those guys. I have two girls, 10 years apart. So me trying to show love to girls when I'm a football coach has been totally different.
Who are you telling? My daughter has a job. Sometimes I'm trying to figure out, is she my daughter or is she my wife? Yes. Because she got a job at Chick-fil-A, and she got in the car the other day, and she's like, I need to get my hair done, during this quarantine time. And so I was going to get into my pastoral role and say, well, Reagan, you want to get your hair done, but there's some people who have lost their, and I said, well, Reagan, your hair looks good. He said, you're a man, you don't understand. Yes. And so she just kept, kind of kept doing her hair and doing something in the mirror. She was frustrated. And she got out, she's like, you think it looks good, Dad? I was like, yeah, it looks good. She's like, all right, I love you. And I was like, all right, I love you too. I'm like, yeah, but you just went off on me for the last 5 minutes. So it's like learning how to, I told my wife one day, we were sitting at the table, and I said something to my daughter about, hey, I think you need to clean your room. And she started crying. And I said, like, what did I do? And she said, Nate, she's a girl. And I said, what does that mean? It's like, she's going through puberty. And I said, well, does everybody go through puberty? She said, yeah. I said, I don't think it was allowed in my house. I said, I think I skipped that because I just don't think I was allowed to have that. But what had to happen was, because I wanted to communicate with her and be effective in that communication, I had to look at somebody who knew how to do that. And I would say something, look at my wife and say, did I do good? It's like, you did good, Nate. I said, all right, oh man. And I think that's how it has to be sometimes with sons, having somebody that's that upper person would say, look, man, this was what was going on. Like Worthy was that for me when Ben was growing up. Because I was dad. I'm dad, and this is what I'm gonna tell you, and this and this and this, but not to know that Ben and Worthy had a conversation before he came to talk to me, and had one to come after he talked to me, so he was gonna interpret, like, this is what your daddy's saying, right? Your daddy really saying this and this and this and this and this, and then so Worthy would call me, hey, I talked to Ben today. And so my first instinct at the beginning was like, he needed to be talking to me, I'm his daddy, but I'm like, no, he does need that other person, because I know he's my friend, he's not gonna go against me, but he's gonna back what I say from a different tone.
And it sounds different coming from him than it did from Dad.
Right.
They can receive it. Yeah, they can receive it. Right. And start to process it.
It's like the coach, when you mad at this player and you done went off on him, and we say, hey, go over there and talk to him, tell him how good he is.
Good cop, bad.
Yeah. Man, go tell him, hey man, come on, coach saying that because he love you, man. You ready to go back in? Yeah, but he said I ain't gotta play. That ain't what he meant, man. Get some water gear to go back in there. Cause we know what dogs you need to go back in there. Look, I remember one time I had to learn how to communicate with my team, and I just used tough love. And they came into the gym, and I said, listen, if y'all don't want to be here, don't come tomorrow. I'm gonna be here at 10 o'clock in the morning. If you do not want to be on this team, don't come. You ain't doing me no favor. I got in the gym the next day with nobody in there. I called him. I said, hey, where y'all at? Coach, you said that we ain't want to be there. Yeah, but I want y'all to be here. That's not what I meant. So I had to kind of learn how through that to say what I meant and mean what I say. So when was the first time you heard a man tell you that he loves you?
I think it was when me and my father had a good talk about 16. So my father said it about 16, but my middle school coach, Coach Eubanks, used to just throw the hint. He never said the word.
What's the hint?
The hint was like, I care for you, right? Or boy, get out of here, you crazy self. Be good. Like, okay, he ain't say that before. It was, you just had to catch the code, but it was like my father telling me, and then when I told the fellas, everybody just kind of looked at you funny, like, he did? Like, yeah, like, what I supposed to do with that? Right.
What did you do with it?
You start analyzing. What do he mean by that? Was he serious with it? Was he just telling me that to say, was he just telling me that because he was leaving, or he didn't want to buy me that shoe, or he didn't want to do something? So you just analyze it because it never happened before. Right. So it was just something you analyze, and it just, me as being a chronic thinker, you just overanalyze it. Right. It meant nothing but what it meant. Right. Like he was, the crazy thing about me and my father and my mother, my dad is only 14 and a half years older than me. Okay. So you could think at 16, he's only 30. Right. So he's been in Germany with his other family, and it's like, you just saying that because you feel guilty, a lot of stuff running around in your head. But now, every time we talk, You know, you hear it. So it's like, you don't say it now, man, you got a problem.
What about you, John? Then I want to ask you a question.
I think I was well into adulthood before I heard a man say it. I don't remember the first time I heard it. Now, I will say that my dad and I have a pretty good relationship now, and he, like your dad, he says it all the time. Like, he won't let me get off the phone with him without saying it. And I think that is a lot because there's some regret there from the years that we were estranged.
Okay.
And so he wants. Interestingly enough, I think one of the things that happened was, you know, I always say I'm an easy forgiver of people because I had to forgive my dad for a lot of stuff. And I thought forgiving him was freeing me.
Right.
Forgiving him actually freed him.
Right.
And he was able to literally change his life around, you know, get off drugs, stop drinking. He's been sober completely for the last 5 years. And he was an amazing dude before. Like, you know how Drake always says, you know, when my dad ain't drinking,
right.
he's amazing. Right. I ain't gonna use the exact words, right? But that's how my dad is. Right. Like, he's amazing. And this dude, like the way he is with my kids, and now he is like, he says it all the time. Like, it's like, and I know he genuinely means it, and it gives me the thought process that he's always felt that way. He just didn't know how to express it, and he didn't feel worthy enough to say it to me until the forgiveness came into place.
And I think that's so good what you said. I think a lot of men that are our dad's age, I know they love us, but they don't know how. I don't think they really know how to say it. I talked to this guy the other day, and he's a millennial, and he was just telling me all this stuff, and he said, man, my dad, I wrote him a note and put it on the refrigerator and told him I loved him, and he didn't say nothing about it. He don't care about me. And I said, how old is your dad? He said he's 65. I said, that dude is 65. He's been doing what he's been doing for 65 years. It was crazy because me and my wife on the phone one day had my dad on speakerphone, and he's talking to me about something, asking me about something. And my middle son, Cole, comes down and says, Daddy, who are you talking to? I said, I'm talking to Pawpaw. He said, hey, Pawpaw. He said, hey, Cole. He said, Cole, I'm gonna come over there tomorrow and bring you lunch. He said, Pawpaw, that'd be great. And then my daddy said, well, Cole, I'm about to go. He said, all right, Pawpaw, I love you. And my daddy said, yeah, I love you too. But he's bringing lunch by the house. He's fixing but that's how he shows it. Yeah. And I just think men in that age, that's just how it happened. But Coach, one of the things I want to ask you, when you said your dad was in Germany, had another family, and you're down here, you're playing football, what comes to my mind, because we're on this quarantine time, is the Netflix All-American.
Yeah, no, I still haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it?
No.
Oh man, I can't. Well, I'll ask you without asking you.
Okay.
So how did you feel being here in North Carolina and your dad's in Germany, and you know he has like another family? You're down here playing sports, you know, you're doing your thing, and he's got a whole nother family somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, being like, once again, I told you 14 and a half years older. So being there, thinking constantly all the problems and hearing negative or whatever from wherever it was coming from, you built up a little dislike for it. But then you come to find out later when you talk about it that it wasn't that way.
When did that happen for you, if you don't mind me asking?
When he came back.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's a whole lot of different stuff that go into young people with kids.
Right.
So it was a lot of stuff that came out of that. But once he came back from Germany, and that was when I was at Hillside, so it was a lot more popularity then, from Friday night football to Tuesday, to selling out McDougal Gym we were playing, so it was a big difference then. So it was different, but once you found out why, you know, you had to be mature about it and understand that that was out of your hand, and it was really out of his hand too. You know, he wanted it, but he couldn't get it done.
And I think that's interesting. How long was that span? I mean, you don't have to tell me an hour, because I think sometimes in the movie All American, once you watch it, you'll see it was like, it wasn't just like click, oh, you're back. I understand. Was that a process? Or was it instant? Did you instantly call him dad?
Well, I've always called him dad because, like I say, my biggest part of my family is his family. My aunts and his sisters. You know, my grandma that I'm closer with and all that. That's his side.
So they were at the game.
They was at the game. I was actually staying with my aunt, his sister.
Okay.
So it wasn't like we was just estranged, not talking, and you just pop back up and I'm like, who you?
Right.
You know, I've always known. You know, when he came home and different stuff. So it wasn't like some of the TV shows where you just show back up and, hey, I'm your dad. Nah, it wasn't like that. Who you? I'm your dad. Nah, it wasn't like that. You know, I always knew who he was.
Okay.
When he did, when he could do what he could do, he did.
Right.
So it wasn't a hard process. It was just trying to get out of your own feet. Cause you gotta understand, me and my little crew, we was raising each other.
Right.
You know, and you know, man, be quiet. Just listen to what he got to say. You know,
that.
so
And they do me like
yeah. Just be quiet. Listen to what he got to say. You know, oh, it's cool. You know, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, or some other people probably went through.
And so the last question I'll ask y'all, and this is something I saw, and I just look at a lot of biographies and TV shows, and they just happen to have this thing about dads on Blackish the other night, and they call it the money dad. And so they were on their dad because they kind of made it, and they was like, "Oh, you're not the involved dad. You're the money dad." And he's like, "What do you mean? Oh, you just throw money at stuff. You know, you just kind of do this. You just kind of do that." Where so and so's dad, he was doing like the bake sale, and he was doing this. And so one of the things they asked at the end of the episode was, "How has the description of dad changed from back in the day to the 21st century, or is it something that you think is the same?"
I think some things are the same. You know, it's a tough question for me because my reference is skewed.
Right.
Because, you know, I saw my uncle on the weekends and went home to my normal life while I didn't have a dad in the household. So I had this preconceived notions in my mind of what a real father was like. You know,
Let me ask you something real quick. Pause right there. So going back, so having a certain amount of days without a father, and then going back and having a father figure on the weekends, at the beginning, was there some adjustment to having a male telling you what to do on the weekends, but not on the, was that adjustment?
Yep.
It was?
I did. It was, but my uncle was a tough.
Right,
tough
okay.
So you were gonna listen to what he said.
Good way of putting it. Good way of
So
putting it.
if not, because I remember.
Were the rules different?
Yeah.
They were?
Yeah. I mean, I had, I think so. I came from a household, you know, we talked about it. We talked about it before, where I am kind of envious of those athletes that love their mothers like to that extent, because I don't completely have that, right? You know, we were close, but we really weren't that close, and so it was challenging. I think it was always challenging for me to have a man step to me, because I was ready to buck up. Like, who you talking to like that?
Right.
You know, I've told people before, my mama don't talk to me like that. Who you think you are?
Right.
But there was a certain level of trust and respect that went along with it with me too. So he could get away with that and fear. Let me be real about that. There's a certain level of fear from him too, that I was not gonna cross that line with him. You know, I think you got to have a combination of all that, the fear, the trust, and respect.
Right.
And if you have that, you're not going there.
Right.
So it was different.
What about you, Coach? Do you think it's changed?
It has changed, and the reason I'm gonna say it's changed is because so many people have went without a dad, and so many people have a dad, then so many people have just a placeholder. So you have all these different people in various groups growing to be their own person. So each individual has put their own personal twist on being a dad. You know, the money dad, the bake sale dad. You know, for me, the hardest thing was being around my daughter from birth to all the time to going to ECU, where, you know, you working 16-hour days. You know, and I had an apartment in Greenville, but but when we got into the season, it was a spell of 3 weeks where I just saw my daughter sleeping because I had to be up and back at the campus by that Friday before we left out for a game. And it was just something that, that money is not that important to me to be missing that much time out of my child's
Let
life.
me ask you that, because I remember having this conversation.
Yes.
I can remember, I know you saying that is not something you're just making up, but I remember we were texting and having that conversation, and you said, I don't know if this is worth seeing my daughter sleep at night. Only. I remember you saying that. So what made you want to sacrifice that?
Because I didn't have it.
Good.
That's what I'm talking about being your different personalities on top of it. I didn't have it. I didn't have a person raise me from birth to see me off into college and to still be there and all that. So when I'm sitting there and I'm living my dream, I don't have my dream. I have our dream now because we're all a family.
Right.
And how is my dream affecting the family?
Right.
And my daughter was used to being a very integral part of the program. Come to the field, speak to you. She at Hillside now, like it's like a second home for her. So being at ECU, not seeing a practice, not seeing it, it's been different. Now at Central, because a couple of times she walked down to practice from Hillside, waited I got out of practice, I shoot her home, come back for meetings. So it's back to being total involvement, missing PTA meetings and all that. No, I wanted to be a part of it. I never had a parent ever through all them years of school go to a PTA meeting or anything.
Wow.
So I want to go to a PTA meeting. That was when I'm going to go to a PTA meeting. Never had one for myself. So, I make sure she has what I don't have, but also make sure she have what I had to help me become who I am.
Right.
A little structure, a little discipline. I get it like go clean the room to start crying. What you crying for? You go clean the room.
Yeah.
Can't talk to her like that. She gonna clean that room.
I don't know if I went through puberty. I think I skipped that point.
It's different with boys though.
Yeah.
We couldn't go through puberty.
I think one of the things that has changed from the dad back in the day to the 21st century dad is that women are more they are more involved into the workforce, careers. So, it may be at night, my wife gets home at 8. Now I can't cook, so they know they're just in trouble. But, there's another role in the 21st century you're doing that they didn't particularly do like back in the day. We kind of split duties. Her list still outweighs mine, but I do stuff that maybe is not seen as what they had to do like back in the day. So I think that's one of the things that's kind of changed and kind of had the man to be all involved in a different way. Because like, hey, they got a parent-teacher conference. I'm at work. I'm at work too. So it's like, okay, well I'm gonna go like as a dad. I think one of the things that happened the other day, we've been going on this walk since the quarantine. And so we're walking, and her phone, she gets a text and she starts to laugh. And my baby boy is texting her. Now, we're together. And he says, Mommy, where are you? I thought somebody kidnapped you. We can't live without you. And I said, do they know I'm not there either? I thought somebody kidnapped me. They didn't say, is Daddy with you? Is he okay? He said, Mommy, I thought somebody came into the house and kidnapped you. I'm texting you to make sure you're okay.
But you didn't get it.
I didn't get a text. And they got
That's a hard pill to swallow.
That's a hard pill.
That's hard.
But you know what? I hate to be spiritual, but the Bible says a virtuous woman, kids raised up in the morning, they call her blessed. So I was like, you know what? And we were walking, I said, you need to get on the inside, because if you get hit and I come back home without you, they probably gonna tell people I did it. They ain't gonna believe that something happened to you.
When y'all got girls, they gonna come back and visit y'all. I got boys. I'm trying to keep my wife around as long as I can.
So somebody take care of me when I'm old.
So this is good. This is good. And like I said before, we're not trying to say we have all the answers, but I think it helps a lot. I've been getting a lot of just texts and inboxes, people saying this is really helping me because I didn't grow up with a dad. and they said, Pastor Nate, what about the person who didn't, dad may not been there, somebody else was a father figure? And I want to tell everybody, like Coach said, it doesn't just have to be your dad, but I have a guy I grew up in the neighborhood with, and I ask him 2 questions every day. I write down 2 questions. He always picks the phone up for me. If he can't pick it up, he'll text me. And I have 2 questions, because even though he's only 2 years older than me, he has some wisdom. He's a professional. He's a pro. And so this time we were supposed to talk about money, but I said we got to get these 2 in. 2 people I respect. I see your walk as a father. I see what you do in the community. I said, so we're going to switch it this time. And so I enjoy y'all being here today.
Thank you for having.
This is the final of the 4th episode. Is that a man? We'll see y'all next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.